أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. A recent interview was released with Brother Daniel and Sheikh Younus. So we want to explore it today,
Assalamu
and without
alaikum and
further
welcome to
ado,
another episode of Muslim Skeptic Live. So thank you for joining us. Alhamdulillah, we have a very special guest today in another edition of our knowledge series, Sheikh Younus, who is joining me from Canada. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Younus. How are you?
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah bi khair. How are you?
Doing well. Alhamdulillah. Very happy to be able to talk to you. Just for an introduction to you, to the audience. Oh, I think Sheikh Younus, there's some echo. Is my voice projector?
Yep, it's fine.
If you can just turn down the volume, because my voice is also coming into the feed. Okay, so just for those who might not know Sheikh Younus, he has been serving as an imam, counselor, chaplain, activist for about 30 years now in Canada, as well as in, he has served in 1994, I believe, and very active on social media. And recently, there has been a campaign against him in Canada from Zionists and some of this media that took issue with statements that you made regarding what allegedly happened in France with a teacher insulting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and putting cartoons and all this. So can you tell us a bit about what happened and your reaction and your thoughts on that?
First of all, jazakallah khairan for inviting me. This is not something that I'm used to doing, so it's quite out of my element. Nonetheless, actually, this is nothing new. We don't know each other, so I guess that's why you're not too familiar with that. This campaign, if you will, began in 2004, so you're 16 years behind it. It's been a long time, and every once in a while, people like to bring things about. I suppose, if you want to call it that, is I don't believe in sugarcoating. I don't believe that my goal or my mission is to make the other happy. It's that I have to say what I believe between me and Allah Azza wa Jal to be correct. I know that I'm accountable. My community, I believe that I owe them the truth as well. So the latest issue was what allegedly happened in France. As is the habit of the media, and I guess you can say certain media outlets, they like to pick out what is, what can demonize the Muslims and Islam. It's not really about me. I'm just a pawn in their game, I suppose. And I guess because I've been on the radar for the last 16 years, they keep an things say which are okay with them. Of course, they never ever speak of those issues. But the moment I say something that sounds controversial and that can be misconstrued, of course they're going on it. I did several khutbahs, not just one, but they decided just to pick on comments that were, that were part of one khutbah. And I think I did it before, to the best of my understanding. I did it before most others talk about it. So, and this was really coincidental. SubhanAllah, I only realized it on September the 11th of 2020. just happened that way. I was ready for the khutbah, but I saw something on the news, and it was about the cartoons in France. So I decided to speak to that issue on that particular day. A few weeks later, this whole issue of the alleged beheading of the school teacher came up. So I felt I still need to speak about it. Now, over that period of time, I kept speaking about the status of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, it's one of the things that I clearly saw that people were not getting. Anyhow, when I was speaking of that incident, then I used some words, and just for the record, I do not retract a single word. Let me rephrase that. Not a letter of a single word that I said. Okay? I said what I said, and it was from the heart and me until this day. I referred to the individual as being ill-spirited and whatnot, and I still stick to that. Because I called that individual what I did, of course, they wanted to go a step further and say that this is legitimizing what allegedly happened. And of course, when I mentioned it as well, I made it clear. It is said that such and such happened. I wasn't there. I don't believe mainstream media and everything they say. You know why? Because I'm a victim. I really consider myself a victim because I know what they have said before, claiming that I have said certain things and I never said them. Anyhow, so when I said those things, they want, oh, this man is an extremist. He's speaking against the school teacher who is actually a hero, and he is a martyr as far as they're concerned. I believe the total opposite. I did not justify in any way, shape, or form for a lone person or even taking the law. And by that, I mean, let's say, according to the Islamic Sharia, that a person was, the hukm or the ruling on them is that they would be killed. I've never, I still don't say that it's up to individuals to carry that out. It's not a mistake, but one thing that I didn't do in that khutbah, and it happens very often because audience have to speak in Arabic and in English. And only after the fact, my kids or somebody in the audience will tell me afterwards, you said this in Arabic, you didn't say it in English, or vice versa. Subhanallah, that day, and by the way, these media outlets, they go out of their way to translate a lot of what I say in Arabic as well, because it just sounds more sensational. Well, they chose not to translate something I said in Arabic, but I didn't say in English. And it is, I said, even if this man deserved to be killed, or he deserved the death penalty, it wasn't for an individual on his own. So that, of course, they left out as well. And of course, then a dua that I made against non-Muslims in general. And again, I do not retract a single letter of a single word that I said in that dua, because this is between me and Allah. Nobody has to tell me what I can pray for and what I cannot. Again, the beginning of the second khutbah, I always begin with something, and they've never translated that because it doesn't suit their needs.
Yeah, of course. These are that Muslims make in general in many of the khutbahs and halaqat. So, and we should be making them in our own lives personally. So, SubhanAllah, you're right. You're not. This is not new for you. They have been targeting your statements. I was watching a video that you had on your page where you were saying that extremism and radicalism, in quotes, according to them, and you had clips of different talks that you were giving. And one example that you had is where you're saying Muslims should not have respect for kufr. Muslims should not have love and respect for example, Christianity as a religion, and this is considered radicalism and extremism. So this is subhanAllah, like even basic Islamic teachings, they take as radicalism and extremism. What really disturbed me about this whole recent episode, and again, this is not something new, but who took this opportunity to side with the Zionist media and start attacking you for this perfectly fine, the statement that I was so happy to hear in your khutbah, and for others, the community, to hear from you that yes, this person, if it's true that he was beheaded, this teacher, but he was an evil person, a vile person for insulting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So may Allah reward you for saying that. But to my shock, rather than following your lead, following your example, or at least supporting you, they actually publicly attacked you, and they said that this person is irrelevant. He has nothing to do with the Muslim community, and some of them even publicly were trying to plot against you and your community, and they're saying that we would like to pressure, but unfortunately his community has his back, and we can't really pressure the community to get rid of this. Is this also something you've experienced in the past, where other imams come and attack you by name?
Only over the last 16 years. Since 2004. Just something very quickly. You said what the Zionist media and so forth deem to be extremist and radical teachings. Okay. For example, what you saw from one of my khutbah, actually, where I did say that we do not respect the beliefs, and of course, when I say that, I mean those beliefs of the non-Muslims which contradict and contravene the Islamic teachings. The example you gave of Christianity. So they believe in the Trinity. How can I respect that when that is dead against my beliefs? So I can't respect this belief that Allah has a son, or Allah is one of three. I can't respect that. The first time I probably made a statement like that was when I was part of a
Younus? I think Shaikh.
I need to be forced. So I mentioned it, and nobody had a problem with it except a Muslim. The one who objected was a Muslim. So most of the time, this resistance seems to become something that it just is mind-boggling.
So you cut out for a second there. Were you saying that your statements about Christianity and Imam had issue with that?
Not Imam, a Muslim in the audience.
He had an issue with the statement that you made about Christianity, that you can't respect.
So the thing is that they don't seem to understand. We respect the fact lakum dinukum waliya din. Everybody has the right to choose their religion. I mean, I have a right to run a red light if I want. If you want to, look at it, but there are consequences. It doesn't make it right, and I have to respect that. So you have your right to your views, okay, but it doesn't mean that I have to respect them. There's a huge difference between the two issues, right? We can't seem to wrap our minds around that, which shows that we are very immature in many cases. Anyway, coming back to what you said, and Imam's objecting to my statements and so forth. Imam in this masjid, who is now the official Imam of a masjid that myself and a group of brothers here actually established, walillahi alhamd, pretty much excommunicated us. Okay, so this was over another issue, I guess a couple of years ago, over Christmas, and it's the same sort of issue that you don't respect their beliefs and so on. He said to the local newspaper that we are not a part of the greater Muslim community. Straight up. And they have no problems with throwing you under the bus, if that's a term that we can use. Or even way before that, in 2004, 2005 onwards, you know, Imam in Richmond, BC, Canada, same thing. He's on record. You know, he made no. He didn't think anything of coming out and saying that, you know what, I'm basically a nobody, and so I am a nobody. Doesn't, so what? But he saying that I don't represent the Islamic stance on things, you know, and of course they tried whatever they could.
So what do you think? Like, if someone is ignorant, fine. Like, but if this is an imam who is making such kind of statements, like, where do you think this mindset comes from? Are they just literally agents? Like, this is what some Muslims will say. Like, maybe this is just a agent or he's being paid off. Do you think it's that, or do you think there are other things, or a combination? What is exactly going on? Like, basic beliefs, right? That they're being attacked for.
I think it is a combination of things. Some of them are outright agents. That I can, you know, hands down. This guy back in 2004, it was very clear. This recent one on Twitter, pretty clear as well. And just to make it clear, I've told him to his face. All right? And these very people, by the way, come back a bit. So it's a combination of things, yes. So you have these people who I believe are outright agents, you know, total sellouts. I have no doubt whatsoever about that. And again, between me and Allah, that is what I believe, and I have answered when I'm standing before Allah Azza wa Jal, inshallah. Another thing is just weakness and cowardice. Many of us here, you know what? We're concerned about how everybody views us. And we don't want to stand by anybody who's controversial, okay? For several reasons. Many imams, and again, I'm speaking 30 years of experience. Many of the imams, for them, this is a job, okay? And the masajid, Islamic organizations, are run by certain boards. And we know how that works. Let's not fool us. Elections, and just like you know the big elections, there's campaigning, people speak behind closed doors. Listen, I wasn't born yesterday. Been at this for 30 years. Been there, done that. I've seen it all. So, you know, a lot of them, their jobs are at stake. So rather than speak the truth, they prefer keeping their jobs. The salary is more important to them than anything else. And I would say that's a great many of them. The best of anything. All right, but others, they're pressured into saying something, but that's not an excuse. To me, there's absolutely no excuse for that. I would rather lose my job than, something not true. All right. Others, it's because da'wah is their business, literally their business. And so for them, to maintain their audience, right? They have to say things that, that will please their audience. And they don't want to be restricted from traveling. A lot of them mentioned it straight up. They've said it. Why do I want to say things that are controversial when it may prevent me from traveling the world? You know, as if they are this alama who the world needs so badly that they absolutely need that freedom to travel. See? It is a combination of things. These ones who are agents, and you get those who are just weak and cowards. and you get those who have some other agenda. I'm not saying about myself, like the supporting me. It's not about supporting me. I'm nowhere in this equation because we're all about principles. We're not about individuals.
So what I think is noteworthy about what you're saying is that you're saying we're not cowards, but the consequences aren't even that high.
Like, what is if like we're talking about people being snatched by Western government and put into torture cells just for saying Christianity is false and we cannot respect the Trinity or some of these kufr beliefs. If the Western governments were literally taking you and putting you in prison and torturing you, okay, that's a pretty high consequence, and then we could talk about bravery and cowardice. But there's nothing like that. There are no grave consequences of that nature in these countries that we're talking about. So it's just boggles my mind that even without that kind of consequence, they can still be cowardly and they can still be avoiding speaking the truth.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there are consequences. Consequences being people will shun you. You will get this negative media attention. Perhaps people in your community will turn against you. Your income, may be at risk. But I say to the du'at, all right, I say to them, why did we get into this field to begin with? If you were not expecting this anyways, then that's problematic.
What do you mean?
You had no vision whatsoever. I mean, if you get to the work of da'wah, and what boggles my mind is, we are the same people who talk about the prophets. We are the same people who talk about what they went through and their experiences and how their people, insulted them and abused them and so forth. And we talk about Imam Ahmad rahimahullah and this fitna and that fitna. But we didn't think that was going to happen to us at any point. I mean, if we inherited from the prophets, you think that some of those consequences were not going to also, fall on us?
Wow.
You can think about that.
Yes, that's a very profound point. So you think that, how would you say, very practically, imams can manage the heat, right? Because we want more imams, mashallah, to follow your lead and to speak the truth very clearly. And against the polls, it's not about personalities, but how can imams learn how to deal with this kind of pressure and this kind of negative backlash? And how can they teach the community and teach the community adab for supporting the imam, right? Against this kind of negative. Do you have any tips on that?
Sure. We have this tendency of blowing things out of proportion. We really do. And we think, or we have this this idea that we have to respond to every media attack. When all of this stuff, I learned very quickly a few things. No matter how many people turn against you, there are always sincere people around. And even some who may not really agree with you at all. Maybe they have, 1% of what you say that they agree with. But when they see you are on your ground because you're not willing to compromise something that you truly believe in, they will give you advice. So a brother came to me very early on, and he said to me, you know what? He was into this whole media thing and so on. And he said to me, by the way, no comment is a comment. So I understood exactly what he was saying. He was saying to me, you don't need to say anything to anybody. If they call you, don't answer. You don't need to respond. Okay, and I think we've seen it on 60 Minutes and other programs where they interviewed Muslims. But you may sit there for a 2-hour interview and they'll use 3 minutes of what you said, or they will choose what they want the people to hear from what you said, and other things that you said to clarify or to qualify will not make the news. So I understood from then, and that is why do I have to respond to them? And as I said in my response a couple of years back, about that whole Christmas issue, I told them straight up in that response of mine. I said I will respond on my terms. Who said be on your terms? I'm not obliged. I am not obligated to take an interview with anybody. Okay, so we need to understand that you don't owe them anything. All right, they owe it to you to be honest. So if you believe in something, then stand by it. Okay. We live in times when we need to be a little bit more cautious. Okay. And subhanallah al-azim, I'm going to tell you something that many people don't know. When all this trouble started for me many years ago, I went and saw a lawyer. Okay. And that was at the insistence of some well-wishers around me. Otherwise, you know what? I had no desire to see a lawyer. And it was about a very I don't know the word to use. A khutbah that was pretty hot. Okay. It was sent to the lawyer. He had it basically transcribed. So as soon as we walked in, he said, you have to worry about. Okay. Your fear was this, but in your sermon, every time you made a point, you also said that this is taken from your religious texts. And these religious texts are protected by law. And then, subhanAllah, I said to myself, and this is where we give credit to our ulama who taught us. These ulama who told us that it's not about your opinion, it's not about what you think. It's about what is in the book of Allah, what is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what the ulama of old have told us. The interpretations of the earliest generations. This is what I was taught. So at that time, I mean, I had no idea that I was going to be in the media or anything of that nature. I was just speaking and talking about an issue that I felt very passionate about. And when I did what I'm used to doing, because this is how I was taught. Back it up with evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah. So this was the consequence. It's protected by law. So what you said, they can't go after you for that. And that was the end of that. Walillahi alhamd. So I'm saying again, for the du'at who are out there, you have a deen. That is a deen that Allah Azza wa Jal chose for you. You need to propagate that deen. You need to educate people about it. Okay, because of how things are today, qualify things. And you can do that regularly. But you can't expect me to have half my khutbah qualifying something that I said. I mean, if I say 100 times over, why do I have to keep saying it each and every time? But there are times when it dawns on me when I'm on the minbar and I'm speaking, and I will actually say, and I have said on occasion, for those unwelcome guests from CSIS is our intelligence agency, and then I clarify what I said. And I've also said that, for those who have diseased minds and hearts, let me just make you, this is what I'm saying, actually, although it was already clear. So I'm saying that, what do you have to fear? Don't blow things out of proportion. So you get negative media, big deal. Are you not more concerned about what you stand in Allah Azza wa Jal? How will you stand before Him? That's all. So it's not a matter of bravery. It's a matter of being principled. Again, everything I say at this point, of course, is my opinion, and it's my opinion based on my experience.
Yes. So let me just give you some pushback, because people who are listening, who are coming from a different mindset, they might have this question: what if they were to tell you that, look, we have to be practical. We have to be practical. We have a Muslim community here that is endangered from different directions, and we have to be practical about what we're teaching, and sometimes we have to maybe censor ourselves to avoid some negative backlash from the wider society. And this is just hikmah. This is a maslahah that we are using to avoid teaching certain subjects, or to avoid saying the Trinity is kufr, or to even use the word kafir or kufr or any of these things.
We have to
just
maybe
teach
that
that
on the side, or in our in a small room, not on the minbar. Because we have to be worried about charity status, for example. We have to be worried about these kinds of
pressures. So to
people who have
people
that mindset.
One word, nonsense. I mean, are you kidding me? That's what endangered. Have you seen what's happening in China? Them, if and subhanallah, they didn't backtrack like we're doing it. We're not anywhere that danger. So again, we're blowing things out of proportion. What danger are we in? Habibi fillah. We have been living here for how long? Let me tell you myself. I don't know how old you are, but maybe I've been in Canada longer than you've been alive. I've been in Canada for 48 years, pretty much my whole life. All right. So, and I don't say that as a matter of pride, but just for people to understand. No, I didn't just step off the boat. Yeah, maybe I look like it, but I mean, you know what? I didn't just step off the boat. I went through school since grade 3 here in Canada. Lived a very Canadian life. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't. None of this is me boasting, because there's nothing to boast about there. But I'm telling you so that people understand. No, it's not that I don't understand, but it's just that I didn't allow my mind to be colonized. I didn't allow my mind to be occupied. Okay. I grew up understanding this country that I live in. This country you say that you know so well. I'm sorry, but I think I know better than you. Okay, I've been through the mill. This country has taught me. This country has taught me that as long as I believe what I have a right to say it. This country has taught me not to be afraid of authority. Why should I be afraid? I mean, if I'm not doing anything illegal, why should I be afraid? People can call my Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, a pedophile, and I have to just accept it. But if I say that their beliefs are false, this is the end of the world. I now, this is not hikmah for me to say that. What do you mean it's not hikmah? For Allah Azza wa Jalla said it. So what is this hikmah card that you're using? Do you even understand what hikmah is? Okay, so one of the problems we have is that we love these buzzwords, but we don't have any clue as to what they mean. If you use that mentality, well, what about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The first time he stood aside and he told them basically that your worshiping is all it's all irrelevant and it's all false. What was that hikmah? Right? I mean, so that's why I said, one word, nonsense. Come with a real argument. And who are they saying this to? And if they really want to discuss things, and I'm going to be very blunt with you. So 16 years ago, when all of this stuff happened, and our local imam at the time, because actually on the mainland, I'm on an island right now, but on the mainland, there were many masajid. So the imam of one masjid in particular is the one who stood really openly against me. And I was, I was advised. No, I wasn't advised by anyone. Actually, I received an email from a brother working for CARE. And to be very honest with you, I think they don't care about Islam and Muslims. But anyway, that's my opinion. Saying to me that, listen, this is not going to go away. You need to put out a profound apology. You need to profusely apologize for what you said. Just kill it. And my response was, I'll go to jail, but I will not. I will not retract what I said. And I put out a fairly long statement. In that statement, I said that if there are any religious leaders who would like to have a dialogue, then my door is always open. Up to this day, not one has taken me up on that. Not one. They've spoken against me in the media, but to actually sit and talk, not a single one.
SubhanAllah.
Neither Muslim nor Muslim, by the way. So this tells you the reality of things. They can speak all they like, but most of it is meaningless. Actually, listen to me. You know stuff that goes on. I don't follow many of the things online. I just don't have the time, and I don't follow much in English. But nonetheless, I hear once in a while, or people will send me something. Oh, look what's going on between these people, and this one is asking whether did you approach that person privately before speaking publicly about them. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, innit? Guess what? Ain't none of them talk to me privately, but they sure did make the public statements. So yeah. I think you get the idea.
So what is the consequence for the community, like when it comes to their iman or their understanding of Islam, when there is a fear to speak out and make things crystal clear between haqq and batil? So you've been active teaching and counseling for 30 years. So have you seen the tangible effect on the community over those 3 decades? And do you attribute it any at all to what you're describing of this attitude of some of these imams or figures?
Absolutely. The state of the ummah here in the West, I think in general, it's getting worse. I mean, look even in the Muslim world today. We're more concerned about what the non-Muslims will say. We want to water down the deen. We don't want to speak about crucial issues. So what happens is that the Muslims at large, they lose that attachment to the deen. They don't have that pride in the deen. So everybody's right. And you actually hear some of them saying. As a matter of fact, there's one imam who said to a group of youth, when he came to a community, that he was going to fix that community by fixing their aqidah. Okay? Beautiful words. Only that he's made a bigger mess of things than anything else. What aqidah are you talking about? Reaching out to the LGBTQ plus community, I'm not dialogue with people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we can't speak to them. Meaningful dialogue is important. But meaningful dialogue doesn't mean that we get together and say, you know what, you're right and I'm right, everybody be happy and merry. Meaningful dialogue, for me, is for me to get my point across in the best possible manner, speak to you in a respectful tone, right? And at the end of the day, you will do what you're going to do. Okay? But we got to talk. So what's happened is that it's made everybody scared. And I think that this is part, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that is, when you look at the Rand report, this is not this. So what happened is you put all these people on the defensive, these imams, who are literally cowards, going to reflect people as well. And so nobody's willing to say anything and look at the impact. So over the years, things which were clearly understood by everyone to be haram, and the average Muslim, even if they did it privately, they wouldn't talk about it openly, and they would do it while knowing it's wrong. Right now, they're able to justify it. Well, what's wrong with me attending a Christmas party? What's wrong with me greeting, the non-Muslim on their celebrations? Do we not see that today? This is a direct result of all of this. At no point are we saying that if you don't believe in what the other believes, that you have to be aggressive towards them. And we've never said that. I was saying to you earlier, look at how neighbors. I get along with my neighbors. I've never done anything, abusive. And as I said on the mimbar many a time, Muslim or non-Muslim for me, I'm a good neighbor, right? So yeah, I don't believe in your celebration. You put up Christmas decorations. I'm not gonna go and tear them down. That's not acceptable in my deen. Okay, so unfortunately, rather than speaking and making things clear to people, we just want to say with me, with our youth. As a matter of fact, just the day before yesterday, again, with the youth and the kids that I speak with, I asked them, why do we not celebrate Christmas? Why can we not take part in any of these things? And I made sure to tell them again that just because we don't believe in those things, because we don't take part in those things, we have absolutely no right to speak in an offensive or in an insult to those people. We don't go to them and say, you're going to go to hell because, you celebrate Christmas. We just don't do that. It's not the way of a Muslim, right? So that is the impact. What are we seeing today? We're becoming weaker and weaker as the days go by. Our focus in the masajid now, more than ever, is politics over deen. We have youth who are absolutely confused. We can blame others as much as we want. My firm belief is we are the number one problem because we refuse to speak the truth.
So do you think that this is going to accelerate, or what do you see the trend as being? And also connected to that, how do you think social media has changed that and changed the discussion of these topics? I would say it's 10 years, about a decade of social media where we see a lot of Islamic teaching and dawah happening on Facebook or YouTube or whatever. Has that really had an acceleration or accelerant type of effect, or how has it affected, and where is this going?
Okay, the first point you mentioned was about, how do I see things going? In 1994 or 1995, I remember sitting in the masjid and I was addressing the audience, and somebody asked me, so how do you see, Muslims or the future for the Muslims here? And I said, very bleak. That's how I saw it at the time. Again, something from what I had seen as I was growing up, and then what I was experiencing also at the time. And I said, I see that we have a very bleak future. And, I said a few words, regarding that. The other issue of social media, Ya Rabbi, I think it's more of a curse than a blessing. For the da'wah, I think it's more of a curse than a blessing. Because everybody gets to speak. Not that, and everybody wasn't able to speak before, but it was very limited. Now, whoever speaks, I mean, their words are carried worldwide, literally worldwide. So, in the comments that are made, to the extent that there are people who have no Shari'i background whatsoever, okay, they no qualification to speak, they'll speak against, scholars. And they'll even give their own interpretations of ayat of the Quran and ahadith, and wow. So from that aspect, I find that social media, with all the benefits that it does have, to me, or the way I perceive it, I think it's had more of a negative impact than a positive impact. Okay, in just so many ways, in commercializing the deen as well. And that is
Yeah, for sure. So would you, one of the things that I want to also ask you is, given all of these challenges, right, what would you think is the biggest challenge facing the ummah as a whole in these days? What are any kind of advice that you can give, or solutions, or guidance that you can convey from the Quran and Sunnah about how we can address these challenges?
Wow, that's a big question. Look, there are just many challenges, and I think the perhaps from the greatest challenges is for us to know where to take our deen from. Okay, the deen is not taken from any Tom, Dick, and Harry. The deen is not taken from the internet. We need to go back to the people of knowledge. And of course, everybody's going to talk about, oh, but how can you tell who is a person of knowledge and so on. Look, we are intelligent human beings. Number one, there has to be something called ikhlas. This is your deen. This is literally your future. Always have in the forefront of your mind. And by the way, I'm not speaking based on my opinions and whatever. I am telling you what I have heard and what I have benefited from scholars in the ummah. All right? Always keep Shaykh Muhammad al-Mukhtar al-Shanqiti, Allah yahfadhu, one of the things that I learned from him, always keep in the forefront of your mind, al-Jannah wan-nar. Al-Jannah, paradise, and nar, the hellfire. These are one of two places that we ultimately end up in. Think of your standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See, once that is there, and this is of course the essence of a taqwa, right? Once that is there, everything else becomes easy. Then you have this firm belief that you have to pray Allah. So of course you're going to turn to Allah Azza wa Jal. Turn to Allah and beg. Beg of Allah to show you the right way. I mean, for goodness sake, you have non-Muslims who became Muslim, and when you ask them, they'll tell you, I was in a motorcycle accident, or I had this happen to me, or that happened to me, and then I said, God, whoever you are, if you're up there, then guide me. And they were guided to Islam. Have we not heard those stories? But all of this is entertainment today. We don't really ponder what's going on. So I'm saying, ask Allah Azza wa Jal, He will certainly guide you. But do you think that I had these, righteous and pious people around me when I was a kid? And so no, it was purely the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If not, I would be another statistic. All right? Ask Allah Azza wa Jal. Look at people around you. Look at your imam. Look at people around you. See that they are, talking the talk and walking the walk. Alhamdulillah, your heart will naturally be inclined towards them. Let's say you don't have anybody around you. You, especially in this internet age, you know people, and you can talk to them, other them, and ask them, you know, who they can turn to for certain things. And you know what? You're going to find a way. Sincerity. It all boils down to sincerity and at-taqwa. All right. These weekend courses and whatnot, you know, they will even offer you 50%, you know, Ilm Friday and what. I mean, come on. So I was talking about commercializing, and it's just out of control. All right. So my recommendation to the average person, the lay person like myself, is let's turn back to our ulama who speak from the Quran and the Sunnah, and you know, the opinions of the great scholars of the past, the Sahaba and those who followed in their footsteps, including the four Imams. Right? These are the people that we want to learn from. Those who will put into context for us what these great ulama had said, based on, of course, the Quran and the Sunnah. For the du'at, don't be afraid of anything. Allahu ma'ana. Allah is with us. That's all you need to know. As long as you're doing the right thing, don't worry. Don't face difficulties. Well, if you don't face difficulties, then there's a problem. Because the way of the prophets and the way of the scholars is always that they face difficulties. Right? That's the path that we have chosen. And so we need to walk that path. It's not rocket science. Big question, but the answer is not a complicated one. We look for complicated answers, but the answer is much more simple than that. We need to focus on our daily ibadat. You know, the amount of, we can't find time for the Quran, but 3 hours on Facebook or whatever else on social media is no sweat. That speaks volumes.
No.
So yeah, it's not as difficult as we think. Have ikhlas, have taqwa of Allah Azza wa Jal, turn to the scholars and du'at. Be sincere to Allah. Be sincere to this deen. Do what you're supposed to do. Don't worry about everybody else. Allah will protect you. If it means that we will be thrown in prison for telling the truth, so be it. We've read the stories of our pious predecessors. You know, I mean, I'm sorry if I haven't.
No, that's excellent. Jazakallah khairan for that answer. Beautiful. So just as a follow-up to that, so if these are the things that we need, then can you give us an idea of what are the biggest enemies of ikhlas, following the ulama who speak from the Quran and the Sunnah? If this is the path and the direction, can you give some help to identify the enemy, the destroyers of ikhlas, the destroyers of taqwa? What is really going to attack? How is shaitan going to attack, or the enemies of the believers attacking them to block this path?
Again, I think a lot of common sense. Look, we're people now talking about things, and it's all fluff, and it's all just opinion. Then you should just turn away. Okay, I mean, it is quite simple. When you have somebody talking to you, قال الله وقال الرسول وقال علماؤنا, and they are, you know, playing you, and they are not afraid to answer your questions. And remember, it's not for me or for anybody else just to speak without expecting that people question us. We have to respond. You know, if people ask us questions, we have to respond, and we have to be able to respond in a way, again, it doesn't compromise the deen. We need to clarify it to the best of our ability. So for the average person, when we listen, let's listen here. Hang on a second. So Allah Azza wa Jal, and you know, there are certain things that were just so obvious and understood by homosexuality, for example. Okay, and I did a whole khutbah on that as well. But you know, homosexuality, or more than one actually, homosexuality, every Muslim, every single Muslim, and I would with exception, understood the deviation, and it is something that is not acceptable in Islam. Nobody ever understood from the Muslims that if you see a homosexual, go and beat him up. Like, nobody ever understood that. But we understood that, you know what? That's not a lifestyle for us. This is something which is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is a reprehensible thing, right? As soon as you hear somebody trying to justify it or trying to say, well, you know, but it's not that bad. It's a lifestyle choice, and you know, do whatever they. This is when I say, listen to common logic. Allah Azza wa Jal destroyed these people for being upon that. So are you going to listen to somebody who wants to make it, you know, acceptable to a certain extent, even? Sense.
Well, they say that we don't support the action. The action is haram, but we should support their rights. We should support gay marriage. We should support LGBT rights, because this is equality. You know, we have to support equality, and if we want our rights, we have to support their rights. This is the logic that they use.
Listen, you know, this speaks volumes. And I'll tell you one of the other things, the other things that results from this. Then we want to cancel out things like hijrah. We want to cancel out things like khilafah. We want to cancel out all of these things. Their words, why they don't seem so serious, more seriously even imagine. Okay, their rights. So are they going to give me the right? My wife isn't here, so I can say it, to marry more than one woman? Right? Are they going to support that? For example, are they going to agree to my right to implement it? Where does it stop? How many rights do you want to give? Listen, this is an abomination. This is something, whatever the case may be, something like homosexuality is an example. Okay, so why do my faith tells me no? So why do I have? Well, yeah, then give them the right to marry, for example. Well, no, I don't believe that. They're going to probably do it anyways, or they have done it anyways, whether I was going to express this opinion or that opinion. Listen, from the non-Muslims themselves, there are those who opposed it, but it was pushed through anyhow in many places. We as Muslims have certain beliefs, and that's it. Okay, giving everybody or claiming that everybody should be given their right to do whatever they want. And I heard, you know, somebody allegedly said that, you know, they should be given the right. How? Why? That's absolutely absurd. Which Muslim in his or her would accept that? Why do they have? Why should we say they should be free to do that? Okay, I'm not free to do it. I'm not free to prophet, any prophet whatsoever. So let's look at things from an Islamic perspective. And this is one of the greatest dangers, is that you see these speakers who want to try and appease the opponents, enemies of Islam. You see them, and they have become your enemies as well. I know it's a strong statement, but really, enemies, and you know, we're growing up enough to understand the word enemy doesn't mean you got to go and shoot them, right? Yeah. They are your opponents as well. What are they trying to do? You know, have they totally forgotten? وَلَنْ تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ. No matter what you do, they're not going to be agreeable to you. They're not going to be pleased with you, not until such time that you accept, right, and follow their way. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ. And they will continue to oppose you, fight you. And, you know, I think I said it earlier, we have to say, use all these qualifiers, and I hate to do that because it's just so immature. Okay? They hold weapons necessarily. They can fight you on the internet. can fight you with their words. I'm sorry, brother, that I'm,
No, تفضل,
I'm
please.
using these qualifiers, but it's the world we live in today. And I just feel so ashamed that we have to do that.
بارك الله فيك.
ولا يزالون يقاتلونكم حتى يردوكم عن دينكم إن استطاعوا. Listen, I am not the one who is telling you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows what is in the hearts. He knows what the intentions are. So don't come and tell me, you don't know what's in their hearts. You don't know what their intention is. No, I don't, but Allah knows. So I'm relating to you what Allah said. So if you have a problem, then with it. Not with me, with Allah Azza wa Jalla, because He's the one that told me. And again, my goodness, I have, I just feel so overwhelmed that I have to qualify things. Not every single individual. We're talking about the non-Muslims at large, and particularly the governments and, these organizations that exist. My neighbor, for example, is not necessarily one of those people. As a matter of fact, my neighbor is a very good person, and I can talk to them, and I know that they don't have evil intentions towards me, of course, because I've dealt with them and so forth. But you know what I'm saying. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the battle between truth and falsehood, and their intention is to turn you back from your religion. So when we have people who claim to be Muslims, and they're activists and speakers, and what they're actually doing is and water down the deen, and they're trying to accept everybody and accept all of their beliefs. You don't necessarily have to agree with them, but just say it's okay. Then what is the purpose of da'wah? What is da'wah then? Have they even understood what da'wah means and what da'wah is to call them to your deen, not to call them to their deen and say that, what, they ain't that bad. As people, they may not be bad, but their beliefs are. And can we not just say it, but in a nice way? So, the enemy from within is always the greatest enemy. Again, I think we've all read the ayat of Nuh and so forth, that we can understand it now.
So all of this said, mashallah, I think you've said so much for myself and everyone to really reflect on and meditate, mashallah. How can we support ulama? How can we support? I know that you don't like to make it about yourself, but I will ask, how can the community support you? And when I say community, I mean the ummah, everyone who's listening that can in a position to help. How can we support you? How can we support the ulama of haqq? What kind of khidmah can we put forward? Because some people have the mindset that it's just the ulama who are serving the community, and this is why many are entitled. Some of these Muslims are entitled and they have all these critiques. But we have to get in the mindset of how can we serve you and other ulama of haqq? Any suggestions or ideas?
I think number one, make dua for them. There is nothing that you can do that is more powerful than your dua, a sincere dua. Okay? Again, speaking on my behalf, for myself, I sometimes think, over the years, the things that I've had to put up with and that I have to continuously go through, had it not been for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepting the du'as of sincere people, I don't think I could have made it. A lot of things that I see, and I think, wow, was it the dua of my mom or my dad? Was it the dua of that sincere person who's in the masjid? Or that sincere person, somewhere in the other end of the world who benefited from something that I may have said? So a dua, that is the number one thing that we can do for our scholars, for the people who are upon truth, to make dua for them. Second, for us to support them if they are being attacked. Okay, and supporting them if they are being attacked might be through, of course, dua, but also just a shout out to that person. A quick email, a message that you're upon the truth, inshallah. We appreciate that you are doing this. Don't worry, Allah is with you. You have no idea what the impact of such words can be. All right? Financially, I'm going to be really honest with you. Ar-Razaq is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He makes a way for everybody. And this is what irks me, is that when people think that they have to give up the truth for a paycheck, they haven't even understood who their provider is. Don't jump to do fundraising campaigns for those dua who are under fire and so on. Do not do that for them until you have consulted them. If they, you froze on my screen. I don't know if I'm frozen on your end.
We can hear you, but you're frozen. But it has happened before. We can still hear you. You can continue.
So because I noticed this thing. Sheikh so and so is under pressure, so we need to raise funds for him. Hang on a second. Why don't you ask the Sheikh first, or ask his family? You'll be surprised how many of them will say, Jazakumullahu khairan, just make dua for me. Not that they're rich and wealthy and whatnot. They're okay. They would rather not, for example, have people raise funds for them. Or maybe they already have somebody who is helping them out. All right? So support them in simple ways, by making for them, by defending them if people are attacking them online, not being abusive towards those who are attacking them, but by responding to them. And by reminding them to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as I said, by giving these kind words to those students of knowledge and those ulama, whether they be male or female, right? And letting them know that we appreciate you and what you're doing, and our du'as are with you, and of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. Again, I don't have fancy answers. I'm just telling you the way that I see it, and I think things are a lot more simple than you and I imagine.
That's amazing advice, and you've given myself so much to reflect on and think about and recalibrate, and I'm sure that the audience as well has done a great deal. Any other, even though I could talk to you all day, mashallah, and benefit, inshallah. So any other final thoughts or comments?
I think the more important thing I can say to myself and to everybody else is ittaqullah. Have fear of Allah Azza wa Jal, meaning that you keep your duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and remember that you have to answer to Him. When it comes to especially these issues that we've been talking about, how often do we hear from the minbar every single week, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida. Say the right thing, fear Allah Azza wa Jal, and say the right thing. You have nothing to fear after that. You have nothing to fear. Tell it like it is, but make sure that your message is clear, and make sure that you qualify what you say so people do not misunderstand it. But know that even if you qualify things, as I've been doing for the past 26 years continuously, even if you qualify things, know that those who want evil for you, those who are opponents, they will still find a way to try and discredit you, and to make you look evil in front of other people. In other words, to demonize you. Okay, it's going to happen. Even if you use a million qualifiers, they're going to, take those words that are suited to them. So there's no winning with the opponents in that sense. But you keep yourself on that course. Stay the course. That is what I'm saying. It's very, very simple. It's very simple. We just need to understand how not to blow things out of proportion. Okay, and I beg of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all tawfiq to do the right thing. And I beg of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send our way good advisors. And that's probably the last thing I want to say. People who have advice, listen to them. It's true, you're not bound, by their advice. You don't have to accept 100% of what they say. But listen and analyze, and then you decide that advice is suitable or not. But don't turn advisors away. Listen. Wallahu ta'ala.
MashaAllah. Shaykh, for coming on and speaking with us. And inshallah, many will benefit. I encourage everyone to follow Shaykh Younus. I put his Facebook page in the description, and you can see many of his lectures and khutbah and benefit, inshallah. And I want to especially thank you, Shaykh, for speaking the truth, especially in this time when people who speak the truth are attacked and they're demonized, even by their own community sometimes. So may Allah bless you, may Allah protect you. We'll continue to make dua for you and all the ulama who speak the truth, and we really hope for the best for you in dunya and akhirah. Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Alhamdulillah, that was an amazing interview, and I hope we all benefited from it and learned from it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us towards those ulama of Ahl Sunnah who are firm and steadfast and who don't compromise, because these are the scholars we need to connect with. And in these times, there's very few of them. Not many scholars are out there speaking out the truth, conveying the deen how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, and how they practiced and implemented it. See, so not that many. So we have to look out and search and connect with those scholars and support them and benefit from their knowledge and spread their knowledge as well. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us success, because there will be many, and we do witness that there are many, many wicked scholars and imams out there. They are at the gates of hellfire calling people. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grant us, understanding. And many lessons can be learned from this interview. Many lessons can be learned that, how we should be, have sincerity to Allah. We shouldn't fear the blame of the blamers. Allah is the provider. The scholars, they shouldn't sell the deen for a miserable price. Understand? Sell the deen for a miserable price, and we see many of them. And this is why you hear and you find out in many of the mosques, they don't talk about and discuss certain things and certain topics. They don't discuss certain, aspects of the deen, even though the deen is comprehensive. Comprehensive, complete way of life. So I hope you all benefited, and until next time. And my next live, I'll go for a book as well, inshallah. So take care of yourselves. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.